there's only certain paths that can get you to that point in life.
I know where I want to get to, and I know that there's no other place I could be right now to get me to that place.
If there's one characteristic that you feel separates you from the rest of the field,
just the big picture of things.
What were some of your thought process as you're moving away from like traditional jobs into kind of uncharted? What were some of the issues that kind of crossed your mind?
I think it was definitely a hard decision. Those are the two biggest things I think is just the flexibility with it, and then the growth was inside of the company as well has been a big thing.
If someone's struggling in the space, what helps you stay focused?
It's been awesome to have the community that we have here and the group of guys.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the podcast. I'm sitting here with Malachi Morgan. So we're gonna be going over kind of our introduction, what he's done to kind of separate him from the rest of the pack. And so Malachi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So walk us through a little bit of your background, kind of where you came from, what you're doing before we linked up. We'll then talk about how we kind of met up and kind of the SPCO movement. So tell us a little about your background.
Yeah, so I was originally born and raised in Northern California. Loved out there, family's out there. It was a construction background actually, so I started doing landscaping, 14 years old, and started doing that, and then I got into hardscape, started getting into some house flips, and just loved the construction industry, getting my hands dirty. Then eventually got into a little bit of pest control just through some connections, and then started...
We had a mutual connection there on the pest control side.
Yeah, exactly, and so I started getting into that a bit, doing the tech side, and then I've had brothers go and door knock for pest control, and so I wanted to kind of get into that aspect of it, and so I tried door knocking and pest control, and knew that I wanted to learn the sales side of things, just as I've always wanted to kind of further my knowledge and kind of grow to be a better person. And so
does your family come from any sales background? Like what, before the pest control episode, like what was your background in sales? A lot? None?
Nothing. Like literally all I knew was hard work and just literally just getting my hands dirty, just doing it myself, just straight construction, no sales whatsoever. Didn't love school, so didn't like that aspect.
That wasn't an option for you. There's a common thread and denominator with door-to-door sales. A lot of them, didn't go to college or quit going to college, or after college decided to do it full time. So
yeah, exactly.
No, that's good. So walk through how we met, right? I'll give my take, and then you can kind of fill in some gaps. So
yeah.
All of a sudden I get a call from my buddies like, hey, I got a guy that used to work for me moving out to Arizona to do some house sitting. He's looking to kind of get into either sales or construction. So if you can, link up with him and kind of see where it goes, that'd be great. And so I'm like, well, where's he staying at? He's like, I don't know, somewhere like in the Pecans. I'm like, that's right next to where we're at. So we linked up, and I gave you a call. You called me. I can't remember how we connected. And it's like, hey, so I heard you're coming out here. You're moving to kind of closer. Who you staying with? You're like, so I'm moving in with this family. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're basically, a football throw from my house.
Yeah.
You were house sitting. And at the time you're like, hey, I want to do some sales stuff, but I kind of had this experience that I'm not sure if I'm really built for it and how much I want to get into it, construction side. And I was like, dude, just freaking come out, see what it's like. What was kind of your first experience when did I miss any key points in the introduction, how we connected?
Dude, that's basically it. Dude, I had no clue what I was going to do out coming to Arizona because I just got married and I didn't really have a plan of what I wanted to do long term. I knew I didn't like working for someone else. I worked for a yogurt shop for like 2 weeks. Absolutely hated it. And I knew I loved the business side of things. I liked working for myself, dictated the hours I worked, how much I got paid. So I knew I loved that, but I didn't know what avenue I wanted to go down. So that's, I know initially when we first met, we kind of I just wanted to talk through because I didn't have any connections in Arizona.
You're a little hesitant to get into sales. You're like, dude,
I've heard good stories, bad stories.
Good stories, bad stories.
Yeah, and so I know we just kind of talked in that first meeting. We met at, I don't know, it was like Cafe Rio or something, and we just kind of talked through just different things, people you knew, people I didn't know, and just different things that I was comfortable with, things I wanted to do. And we just kind of laid out all the options, and you basically just said, dude, if you want to kind of try what I want or try what I'm doing, and I think I tried it for that first week, and you said basically come out and try it, see if you like it. If you don't like it, like I know this guy in construction, houses, if you want to do pools, like there's a couple different avenues we talked about, but you just kind of, the first time we met is like, dude, based off what you said and based off of what your background is and where you want to go. Like, I've loved the opportunity that I've had, is what you kind of said to me. And if you want to kind of try it out, I'm here. If you want to try it for this week. And that's how I initially got started, was just trying it for that first week.
I'm going to rewind just a little bit. And one of the things that popped up in my head is like, when people are making a transition from, we'll call it blue collar work, traditional jobs, whether it's yogurt shops, construction, laborers, dental assistants, whatever it is, and moving from that type of structure, pay, into, we'll call it entrepreneurial, right? Like, no money's guaranteed. You're only going to eat what you cook, right? What you produce. Like, there's this thing. What were some of your thought process as you're moving away from like traditional jobs into kind of unchartered? What were some of the issues that kind of crossed your mind? Like, one of the biggest things for me where I go is like, my family was objective, right? Not 100%. Like objective, like you shouldn't do it, but a little more reserved about like, hey, get a real job, make real income, save money, and that. So walk through some of those like mind processes as you were looking at coming from that traditional space of guaranteed pay, hourly pay, 32 hours a week, full time, into like, I'm willing to jump off a cliff and hopefully the parachute opens.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it was definitely a hard decision, because both my family and my wife's family are very traditional in the fact of college and get a degree, and kind of they took those routes. And so just the pressures of both of our families and being able to provide for my wife now being married, and that was a very scary jump, just because there's not a lot of certainty with this job. And that, like you said, I was used to this much every week. I knew I'm working this amount of hours. It was very structured, and then making the jump to where it was a lot of what I put into it, I got out of it. And a lot of, we are structured, but in a more disciplined way, where you have to be more disciplined, where you're not being hassled for you have to be at work this time of day and whatever it was. And so it was a scary jump, coming from a space where, again, it was predictable. And then now just the added factor of having someone else I had to support, and then with her family, and being able to own up to that, and being confident enough to, to see the other side of it and to provide for her. So that was definitely a big jump.
So when you made that jump, right, you brought up something, where you're like the unknown, right? Or the benefits of like the lifestyle, or, that type of stuff. What are some of the benefits that you found inside of, selling solar with us versus, work in construction, 6 a.m., 6 p.m. type stuff? What are some of the benefits of having that flexibility? That was words you used. Having more of a flexible schedule.
Yeah, 100%.
So you've been with us now about a year.
Yeah.
Right, give or take. So this is about a year, travel log that we're going to go through. So walk us through some of the benefits that you found when you first started compared to now that has allowed you to kind of, one, be successful in the space, and two, wanting to thrive and build and grow as, a recent team leader at the company.
Yeah. There's a couple big things that I love. One, like you said, the flexibility is what I really enjoy, because although I do get what I put into the company, there are things that I love to do outside of work, and with my wife and with family and other things, the flexibility of just being able to take, obviously I don't take a lot of days off, but the times that I do, I'm able to have flexibility with it, where I'm not set to a strict schedule. Obviously there are times where I'm strict with my yearly schedule, but there are times where I have flexibility, which is super nice with my wife's job, with my job, and just the aspect of I can put into what I want. Like, I can put as much into it as I want to, and I can get what I want. Whereas before, I knew there was a cap to what I could do. There's only a certain amount of hours I could put into the day. There's only a certain amount of I could get paid hourly. There's a certain amount of time I could take off. Where I thrive in, the sky's the limit. There's so much opportunity within this space that I love. You could put as little into as you want. You can put as much into it. You can make as much as you want. You don't have to. And I think that flexibility with my family has been a big thing. The pay has been a good thing, in the aspect of there's no cap, or there's no, basically if you want to work hard, you can make a lot of money. And that's what I really thrived off of, especially in construction. I love working hard. I love putting the time in and being rewarded for that amount, or for that time.
But after 40 hours, it's $800, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And 45 is $800.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Those are the two biggest things I think is just the flexibility with it, and then the growth was inside of the company as well has been a big thing, because I think I love the opportunity within. It's basically like owning your own company without all the overhead. You get to put in the hours you want, make as much as you want. You get to bring on guys. You basically get to lead a team, especially in the role that I'm in right now. It's been super fun to kind of see that side of it, and I get to dictate what I want and kind of grow it to what I want it to be. Whether I want it to be $1 million, whatever I want to be 100,000, I can make it what I want to, and I that's one thing I love about it.
One of the things you said earlier, that's awesome. One of the things you said earlier is as you were looking at pest control, right? You had that pest control experience in the door-to-door, and now you're selling solar. What was the difference between choosing it? Because the experience in pest control wasn't what you were looking for. I'll let you expand on that. And then solar, like, why did you pick that over another field?
I think one of the big factors, there's a couple things. I think the community here has been a big difference. The group of guys that we work with, I think the leadership and just the sales is a big thing, but also people caring about the other aspects of your life has been a huge thing. They care about my family, they care about my well-being, they care about me getting to a place that I sometimes don't see, but they know I can get there. And so I think, one, it's been awesome to have the community that we have here and the group of guys, and I think another thing was solar. I mean, I made a lot more money doing solar, was another thing. And I feel like for me...
What does that compare to it, right? So you say more money, right? Like a deal for pest control, what'd you make, versus a deal for solar, what do you make?
A deal for pest control, depending on what it was, I think I made $300 a sell, where here I make... If I'm splitting with a lead setter, I'm making $5,000. If I'm doing a self-gen, it's closer to 10. And so it was a big jump pay-wise. Obviously, there's different things that go into it, but I think that...
So that ratio is like, somewhere between 10 pest control to 1 solar?
Yeah.
Versus, or a self-gen, right? Like 20 pest controls to 1 solar.
Definitely, I had to sell a lot more pest control to get up to what I'm equivalating in solar, definitely.
Gotcha. And the guys that are working on your team were also looking at pest control versus solar, and they chose to do solar as well for, I think, the similar reason, correct?
100%, yeah. The amount of time, they knew they were going to be busting their butts either way, and so they wanted to obviously make more per deal, but also if they could put in the same amount of hours and get 5 deals in a month or whatever it was with solar, they had to equivalent that with 20 to 30 deals in pest control. And so that was a big determining factor. They were here for 2 weeks, and I think they had like, how many deals did they have? They had 5 deals their first week. Yeah. And then they decided to stay. They've loved it ever since.
Extended like a month, and then they just moved into their own spot. And found girlfriends, and now they're stuck in Arizona selling solar for life. Now they're here. So if you look at so you've been at the company now a year, like we talked about, and you've seen people come and go. Some have had success and left. Some didn't have success and leave. Like, there's one characteristic. If there's one characteristic that you feel separates you from the rest of the field, what is different the way you operate than the other guys that haven't made it?
That's a really good question. I think one thing I've been thinking about recently, just the big picture of things. I think I know there's a future, and I know where I want to get to, and I know that there's no other place I could be right now to get me to that place. So there's a place where I have goals with me and my wife. There's a place I want to be with real estate, with wealth, with different things, and I know there's no other place I could be right now to get me to that place as fast as I want to get there. Like, for instance, if I were to get a job somewhere else, I'd be making at best on a good job $25 an hour at 22, and I'd be making $4,000 a month, and just the places I want to go to, it would just take a lot longer to get there, and there's literally no place I could be right now to get me to where I want to be.
Yeah, and that's powerful, right? Because if you understand the big picture, you understand where you want to accomplish, right? You start with the end in mind and work backwards. We talk about that a lot. There's only certain paths that can get you to that point in life. Not saying that everyone has to make $500,000 a year to get to what they want. Yeah. There's a lot of people that are happy making 50 or 100. But it's like you said, I'd even say, like, if you were to get a job at $50 an hour, right? $50 an hour, a person works, 2,000, 40 hours a year, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like you're making $100,000 pre-tax, right? After, taxes and stuff like that, you're $70,000 post-tax, right? Cost of living for rent, house, whatever is $4,000 or $5,000, and that money's not going to go very far. Right? I think one of the things that also separate you from other people is your ability to stay hyper-focused for that period of time, right? Meaning whether it's a schedule or a structure, what does an average day look like when you wake up, working, kind of rinse, wash, repeat for that week?
Depending on the time of year right now, I pretty much get up at 5:30. I'm at the gym between 5:30 and 6, work out for 2 hours. I'm on the doors I leave my house at pretty much 8 every day. And then I'm on the doors at 10, and I go till, with a break in the middle, I go till about 4 or 5. And then if I'm working in a different place, it's pretty much the same schedule. So about 6 hours a day on the doors, 4 to 6, pretty much.
And if you were to look at the time, when you were grinding that schedule consistently, getting installs, going through there, what would you say that highest month that you made was in that period of time? Of like deposits.
My highest month deposits. So when I first got here, I think I had 12 deals my first month, and then they installed December, and so that month I think I made $25,000 in December. So that was month 3, but that was like my first month of installs.
Yeah.
So installs, it was about it was 25.
Perfect.
25, just under 30 grand was my biggest month.
Yeah, and there's a trailing effect, right? So you put in the work, right? You go out and you grind it for 30 days, and over the next, 15 to kind of 45 days, you start getting the deposits, and they start adding up, right? And the goal is to continue to do that every month, right? Grinding, and letting that pipeline built up.
Yeah.
So if there's any advice that you were giving to someone that's looking at doing solar, might have reservation about making the switches, what would it be?
I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give, a big thing that has helped me is, dude, just put in the work. Like if you just stick to a schedule, dude, it freaking sucks at first and it takes a little bit to get to it. But if you can just stick to a schedule and just put in the work, like you will be in a better place than you were when you first started. And so especially with solar, like there's definitely your first little bit where it's hard and it definitely sucks a little bit. But if you can just put your head down and work and stick to a schedule and just put in 6 hours a day and just stick to that, dude, 2 months down the road, you're in such a better place. Like your personality, the things you learn, and then the pay is just, it's a big thing, but it's a bonus. But I think me as a person and just the dedication that I put to just putting my head down and working and just sticking to that, I think that's the biggest thing that I could tell anybody coming into it. New people is just, it does suck sometimes. You have good days, you have bad days, you have bad weeks. But if you can look at your months and look at the big picture of things, like you're in a much better place.
So besides, that's awesome. I think there's a lot of wisdom in just getting down and doing it. If someone's struggling in the space, what helps you stay focused to keep your eye on the prize, right? Like it's easy, like I want to make $1 million, and to get there, I recruit, and I build, and I sell, and I do this and this. But as you've gone through this year, there's some ups and downs of distractions or frustrations or canceled accounts, or everything's not all, what do they call it, unicorns and rainbows, right? Like there are real issues that you come across, emotional frustration, people telling you no. What advice could you give to someone that's struggling inside the space that just says, hey, even though you're struggling, this is what I do to make the end goal attainable or a reality?
It's a really good question. Because you're right. And I think we refer to it as the solar coaster, where it goes up and it goes down, and there's good times and there's bad times. And when I'm in the rough patches or the rough times, I think the biggest thing that helps me, a couple of things. One is knowing that I've done it before, knowing that I've had freaking killer months, and it makes up for the bad months. I know there's good weeks and there's bad weeks, and I know I've done it before, and I know if I continue pushing that it's ultimately going to be for the better. And I think another thing that helps me is seeing the people within this company there are people that are doing it. There are people that are a lot more successful than I am. There are people that are absolutely killing it, and I've seen it, and I've seen the proof of that. And like I said, the community is a big thing inside this company, and just the morale and the whether it's the meetings or whether it's just talking one-on-ones or whether it is. But having that community within the company, I think helps a lot, especially when you're rough patches, and having the experiences of different guys, and they're with me. I'm out here with them grinding, and it's hot. It freaking sucks, but we're doing it together. I think those are the two of the biggest things that I've seen that have helped me, especially in the rough times, because there are some rough times.
There's a lot of them, and basically summarize, like, we're not the pioneers. Someone else has already pioneered the path.
Yeah.
And when you're going through those struggles, lean into someone who's been there, done that, has had success, and utilize them as a support team. Well, that wraps up this podcast, episode 3. Thank you for tuning in for this long. We appreciate Malachi coming on with us and explaining some of his experiences, the ups and downs. If you're interested and want to continue to progress or have questions, like and subscribe down below, and we'll reach out to you and get you on the solar coaster with us. And thanks for your time.